countries where YouTube is banned. Did you know about that?
No, I didn't know the country where it was banned. Obviously, I know in China there's a lot more restrictions. When I've been to China, I can't use certain sites.
Okay, meet Abbas from Pakistan, and in Pakistan, YouTube is banned, completely banned. So technically, he cannot be here. He is here, so he's a clever guy. But generally speaking, can hear you, Steve now. Okay, great. But generally speaking, people from Pakistan, they can really attend because YouTube is banned, and you know, Hangouts is part of this YouTube infrastructure.
No, we can easily use the Google Hangouts. There is no problem in it.
No problem?
Yeah.
But I understand Hangouts is part of YouTube. YouTube is banned.
Yeah, YouTube is banned, but Hangouts is working properly.
Okay. Never mind. When I hear that YouTube is banned in some countries, I was gobsmacked, to be honest. Well, China is a different story, but yeah. But just well, a regular country, well, like Pakistan, banned as very strange. Okay, guys, we still have about 3 minutes to go, and we're already on air. But people tend to be late, so hopefully we'll have more people. We will gather more viewers. The score which shows here is not really correct because we're transmitting it on YouTube and our website as well. So you never know exactly how many. You only can judge after it's finished and uploaded on YouTube, and it shows how many views all together. So just disregard it. And there is a time lag as well, I've noticed. So everything we say will be transmitted 30 seconds or 1 minute later. So with the questions with people who were watching us outside of this room, it would be some kind of time lag. Okay, we still have a couple of minutes, guys, who are joining us. We have BuzzSumo today, BuzzSumo talking. Steve BuzzSumo Rayson, he will be talking about, well, about viral. By the way, we still have time, so now it's a chat. Yesterday, I have my first post went viral.
Great. What was the post?
Well, it's not on what you usually do. It's on Quora.
All right, yeah.
And my post got almost 7,000 viewers. I was gobsmacked.
What was the question?
Well, it's not about SEO.
All right.
Question was, what are the most obscure passports in the world?
All right.
Obscure, and I just showed them a passport of, for example, non-recognized republics, what used to be part of Soviet Union.
Right.
So, and people reacted.
It's always hitting a nerve as I'll go through today. It's just hitting something which interests people, isn't it? You get a group of people who are then passionate about sharing it and just sharing it on with their friends. Yeah, I can see that you might own an old passport or something, so I could see that you'd be interested and then you want to share it with your friends that you have one of these passports or whatever.
Yeah, but obviously, if you answer SEO questions on Quora, you will never get 7,000 viewers within 1 day. It's just bloody impossible.
Yeah, no, there are real differences. I'll say at the start of this, the viral ones that I'm looking at, are big viral ones, so none of us will get the level of shares these get, but we can still learn from them. But yeah, you mustn't feel depressed if you don't get 1 million views.
We had actually a webinar here. It's why I opened this Quora account. We had a webinar on Quora, and was public actually asked for that. So the guy who was doing it, he said he got 1 million views within 6 months.
Whoa, a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I think it's difficult. Okay, we got another guest. Amel. Okay, Amel, can you hear us? Hello, everyone. Amel.
Can you hear me? Hi, everybody. Hi, Steve. Hi, Abbas.
Okay.
Hi.
Okay, Amel is SEO consultant and expert, and she has done a webinar here, and she's a regular here. She's from Canada, Montreal, Canada. Okay, Amel, meet today's speaker, Steve Rayson. He's a director of BuzzSumo, which we all use. Well,
Hi,
not
Emma. Nice to see you.
not
Hi.
Steve, but BuzzSumo.
Yeah.
Okay, and meet Abbas. Abbas is a very young blogger and SEO expert. He's regular here as well. He's from Pakistan.
Hi,
Okay,
everybody.
Okay, guys, just introduce kind of easy rules. When still Steve speaking, switch off your microphone because the system is switching screen all the time, even there is some noise. So in order to avoid it, when Steve starts his presentation, just switch off your microphone, and when he will finish, switch your microphone on, ask your question, and chat whatever you do. So I guess we have it's right timing, and I'm switching my microphone off, and still Steve is going to be all yours.
Okay, so I'll share my screen, and we'll do ask lots of questions. Either type them into the chat room, or I say at the end we'll just spend plenty of time. So I'll go through it reasonably quickly, and then we can have a lot of chat. Okay, I'll just share my screen. So hopefully you can all see my screen okay there now, but somebody just shout. If you can't see the screen, just shout, but I'm assuming you can see it. So, but this is based really on a piece of research I did over the last month or so, where I was just looking at what were the most viral posts in 2015 and just seeing what could we learn from viral posts. So I put together some lessons about what I think we can learn from these posts and what we can apply in our day-to-day content marketing. But a sort of word of warning at the start, really, which is simply that viral posts are outliers by their very nature. They tend to be quite extreme, quite exceptional. So I'm going to show you posts that got lots of shares, but it's not to get depressed if your posts don't get this many shares. I'm just trying to learn from these. And just to make that point, really, I pulled out this. This is a distribution of the number of shares and number of posts on two of the big sites, because it's easy to say, well, on the New York Times or on BuzzFeed, they're bound to get loads of shares. But actually, very few posts go viral. If you see on this chart on the left, you can see at the bottom end there, the number of posts that get very few shares or relatively few shares is very high. And as you stretch out to the right, as the number of shares goes up, so the number of posts getting those shares gets lower and lower. And even on these really big sites, you get this skewed distribution where you would you get just a few posts that really go super viral, even for these big sites. So the distribution is interesting. So we always got to remember that viral posts are outliers and they're exceptional, even on the big sites. And I put this together as an example. These are the 3 most shared posts this year on Huffington Post. So they're the 3 most shared ones. But as you can see from the shares down the right-hand side, the top post got 1 million more shares than the 3rd most shared post. So that's a huge variation. So even those top couple of posts were exceptional compared to the rest of Huffington Post content. So, and nobody knows exactly why they go viral. If they did, Huffington Post would be producing more and more posts to get 2 million shares. And so what I was looking at is just even on these big posts, what posts went viral, why did they go viral, and what can we learn from them? So, but it's worth just remembering that viral posts by their nature are exceptional. But I think they are insightful to us because we can learn from them, because the reality is if 1 million people share a post, there's clearly something about it that makes people want to share it. So there are things that we can learn, and what I've tried to do is pull together those lessons and then say, can we apply those lessons to our own content and make our own content more shareable? So accepting these are outliers, there are things that we can learn. So that's just a little bit of a warning up front, really, because the reality is, I think you may have seen from my previous research, 50% of all blog posts get 8 shares or less. So 50% of posts actually get less than 8 shares, which is amazing, really. So these really are at the other end of what we're looking at. So the other thing is that I'm not looking at celebrity content. Celebrities can drive huge amounts of traffic. I actually took this screenshot a week or so ago, just after Adele posted her new video, and it's already had 500 million views. And we're not in that territory, so I've ignored celebrity content. They different sort of creatures, really, and they can drive a lot of traffic because of their fans. So what I did was I looked at what was some of the most viral content in 2015, and if you've got other examples, do feel free to reference them or talk about them. I'm always keen to see them. But these are some of the ones that I saw went viral and why I thought they went viral. So if I take the first category, and that's content that surprises people. So it's different to what they were expecting. People like to share this type of content, particularly if it's research-based or something like that. People seem to really like to share surprising content. So this particular post, champagne prevents Alzheimer's disease or dementia. A bit of a surprise. No one would expect that necessarily. Obviously, good news for us at Christmas as well, that we can drink 3 glasses of champagne and feel good. But it had almost 1 million shares, and it was the most shared post on the London Evening Standard. Maybe in London they drink more champagne, who knows? But there's a particular post that went viral, and I think a large part of it was because it was surprising. And another variation on this was that top post from Huffington Post. So this post had over 2 million shares and interactions. And just to explain, on the right-hand side, that's using our BuzzSumo Chrome extension, which you can just install, which shows you the shares for any piece of content. It's just because Twitter turned off the share count, and as you can see on the Huffington Post article, you'll see the tweet button on the bottom left there is actually blank, and that's true of a lot of sites these days. So if you want to see it, you can just go to BuzzSumo to do that. But this post was about why the cause of addiction is not what you think. So it's a slightly more clickbait headline. So, okay, what did I think? What do I think it might be? Do I need to click through? And this post was really about that actually new research shows that a lot of the causes of addiction are around loneliness and isolation. It's not about the physical and reactions, but a lot of it's about loneliness and isolation. So it was an interesting post, and it's the most shared on Huffington Post. But again, I think it had an element to it which was surprising. So research had shown sort of surprising results, really. So I think research and things that are surprising, people like, or even surprising images, I think people like. So that's our first type of content that goes viral, and I'll bring out the implications of these at the end. The other reason content goes viral a lot is because it leverages a trend. Something becomes very in vogue, it starts to trend, there's lots of trending content. And this year, if you were in trouble not knowing what to write about, you could write posts about zombies. Zombies were really popular, partly because of the Walking Dead TV program. This was a fairly standard article. It doesn't have a clickbait headline or anything like that. But this particular post, just a cruise that was going to be zombie themed, got over 1.5 million shares. And quite amazingly, 400,000 people commented on it, which is huge, really. So 400,000 comments on a single blog post. But it was, again, exceptional because it just happened to hit a trend that everyone was talking about zombies. And if we put this into context, these are the top 3 most shared posts from Fox News. And you can see that zombie one had 1.5 million. And that's 5 times higher than even the second most shared, yet alone the averages. So even within the context of their site, this went viral. But it went viral, I think, because it was leveraging a trend, which was, in this case, a trend about zombies. The third way I think content goes viral is that it inspires people. People do seem to like to share stuff which is inspiring. This is an example from BuzzFeed, but it's just 51 of the most beautiful sentences in literature. And it's a fairly simple post. They've literally just gone through and taken 51 sentences from poems and literature and just listed them in a single post. So it's a list post, which tend to do well anyway, but it's about inspiring quotes. And I think this was the 3rd or 4th most viewed shared post on BuzzFeed this year. So it's a list post, but it's inspiring, really. And 1.4 million shares certainly put it up there in their top 5 posts this year. So people like to be inspired. People also like awe-inspiring. It could be completely beautiful pictures or something, which we'll come on to. So I mentioned pictures. People like to share images. And what people like to do, even more than share images, is share groups of images. So what I call a picture list post is that it's a list post, like 52 places to go here, but it's 52 beautiful pictures of different parts of the world. And people seem to like that. Even more than a single picture, they seem to like list posts of pictures. And I think it combines a number of viral elements. It combines the power of pictures with the power of list posts and with the power of curation. You've done the hard work for somebody. You know, here are 52 places to go, and they're beautiful images as well, but you've done the curation. And this was one of the top posts on New York Times this year, so over 500,000 shares. So beautiful picture list posts. And they don't have to be beautiful. This is an example from The Guardian. It's one of their, I think it's their second most shared post this year. And it's really about the dangers of overconsumption in the world. And it's got a series of pictures just showing how much there's overconsumption. So I think this one is in Mexico City, this image here. But I say, I think it was the second most shared post, and it was literally 10 images. So that's the Guardian one on picture list posts. The other thing that people like to share a lot, and this is a classic, I suppose, of a BuzzFeed one, which is people like to share pictures of cute animals and babies. They're perennially popular, so whether it's cats or dogs, etc., people really like to share this stuff. And the example I took here wasn't actually necessarily a picture of a dog or a cat. This was actually from Gizmodo, and it's actually about a site that makes stuffed clones of your pets. I think people in some countries would find this a bit odd, but generally this does incredibly well. So it was just a post on Gizmodo, and it was their most shared post by miles. And it's because it was appealing to people who liked their pets, their dogs, their cats, etc. So this is a topic that is just perennially popular. I looked at the most shared posts on Halloween, and the most shared Facebook posts were literally people sharing pictures of cats dressed up in Halloween costumes, etc. People seem to like that sort of stuff. It's not necessarily relevant if you're business to business, but I noticed even Moz the other day, they were doing a video, and the person doing the video, she was being filmed, and she held a nice little cute dog as she was talking and stuff. And so even people like that are bringing it into some of their content. But for Gizmodo, this was a bit of a surprise. And if you look at their most shared posts this year, these are their top two. That particular post on making a stuffed animal clone of your pet, that got over 600,000 shares, 3 times as many as their second most shared. And the second most shared was actually another interesting content type. It's about warnings, and you'll see this. I'm going to come on to warnings later. People like to share content which is also a warning, to warn their friends and things like that. So, but you can see here this one about the pets, 3 times as many shares as others on this site. So surprising. Another one that people like to share is amusing content and humor. And so I just picked a couple of examples of this, but people do like to be amused, and they like to entertain their colleagues. And when people have done surveys, like the New York Times did a survey about why do people share content, and actually one of the things was to entertain my friends, so they'd find funny things and they share it. This was from the New Yorker. This was the most shared post on the New Yorker this year, and it was a very tongue-in-cheek, amusing post about how the Earth's endangered by basically humans who don't believe facts any longer, who don't believe that dinosaurs existed or whatever it happened to be. It was an amusing post, really, and it got shared a huge amount of time. So it was their most shared post this year, which is just an amusing post. But videos also do incredibly well when it comes to funny videos. That particular post, you can see on the New Yorker, they got twice as many shares as its second most shared. So you can see how these posts are outliers. It didn't just get a few more shares, it got twice as many shares. And if the New Yorker knew how to do that every time, they would. It's difficult to know exactly why it goes viral, but I'll go through some of the common elements. And again, the next one was an earthquake that will destroy the Pacific Northwest. So another sort of warning one, I suppose, in a way. The other type of amusing posts, this was just a Vine. It's a cute kid who falls off a slide and just smiles, doesn't cry or anything like that. And that's had 800,000 shares, and it's just a cute video series. So being amusing is another type of post that people like. Be more controversial. controversy seems to sell as well. It seems to get attention. It seems to get shares. It's divisive, so it's dangerous in a sense because it's quite controversy tends to be divisive. People line up on one side or another side. But people often like to show they're part of a tribe. So even if it's controversial, they'll often like things or share things to show they're part of that tribe. And I thought a classic example, of course, is Donald Trump. It's a bit scary to me in the UK just how many people support Donald Trump, but that's a view from the UK. But you can see the post there on the 18th of July got 700,000 likes. His post last week, which I didn't take an image of, but about banning Muslims from the US, that got over 500,000 likes in a day. So some people say, yeah, I want to identify in being part of that tribe. And Donald Trump is a classic, I think, that he puts out posts which are controversial, they're quite hard-hitting in terms of language, and they are divisive. But he is appealing to his tribe, and his tribe like this sort of stuff, and they share it a lot. And I took some data from, if you're an agency user on BuzzSumo, you'll know we have a Facebook analyzer, which is where I took these posts from. But I also analyzed Donald Trump's Facebook page just to look at the number of interactions. And you can see the more controversial he is, the more he gets likes and shares of his content. And I can tell you that the December figures are already above the November figures. So yeah, him being controversial is causing him to get likes and shares. It's divisive and controversial, but it's driving more engagement with his particular tribe and audience. Another thing you can do is quiz people. People seem to love quizzes, and they love sharing quizzes. And quizzes are built to do this. So a lot of quizzes are built so that when you finish it, it says share the quiz. So if your most dominant character trait was ambition, now share your result with others. So they are designed to be viral. They are designed to be shared. But people really genuinely seem to like doing them. And there are two different types. There's what does a quiz tell you about yourself, like which Star Wars leader are you, character, what's your most dominant character trait? And then there are knowledge quizzes. So can you name these 10 capital cities? How much do you know about Barcelona Football Club? Whatever. So there are different types of quizzes, but people do seem to really like them and share them widely. So this is from Playbuzz, but you can see this got 3.9 million shares, so a huge number of shares for this particular quiz. So people do seem to like quizzes, and they're quite easy to produce. On the downside, we did a lot of analysis, and whilst people share quizzes, virtually nobody ever links to a quiz. So if you're after SEO link building strategy, quizzes are great at building awareness, driving a bit of traffic to do the quiz, but they don't build links. And so I can show you examples of posts that got 250,000 shares and not a single link. So it's interesting, but quizzes are things that people definitely like to share rather than link to. And here's another example. This is one of the most shared articles this year, which was it went through as a Facebook quiz, and it was basically, can you see the colors? So can you see the color that looks different from the other colors? And I think it worked well as a quiz because instantly you say, oh, I think that 1 second from the left is a slightly different color. You click on that, and then you keep working through the quiz. So it sort of draws you in, really. But this got over 5 million shares. And the site who produced this then produced lots of other quizzes to try to replicate this. But they didn't get a single quiz that had more than 5,000 shares after this one, which is amazing because this one had 5 million. None of the others just resonated with people. And I'll come on to why I think that was the case. But so again, it was completely viral, but people loved this type of quiz. And I think another element of quizzes is about interactivity. People do seem to like interactive content. And this is an example from, I think this was from Time magazine, which basically said you just put your name in here, your date of birth and your sex, and it would say, based on popularity, what you would be called today if you were a baby. So it just said, based on the popularity of your name in that decade, what would it be now? And so these were my results. So in 2000, I'd have been called Justin, in the 1990s, Anthony, etc. So people like these sorts of pieces of interactive content. And so this, as I say, got almost 800,000 shares. And if you show it in the context for time.com, you can see that interactive piece of content got over 780,000 shares. The second one, got Less than a third of that. I'm not quite sure why Parenting Like a German was so popular, so I didn't look at that, but you can see again 3 times as much shares for that piece of content. The other thing people seem to share is warnings, and I mentioned this before. So there was a warning about the dangers of drinking bottled water, for example. This is WebMD, so a big US site, and we can see that recall of kids' Tylenol, that was shared almost 500,000 times, whereas their other content not shared so much, really. So people do seem to share warnings to warn their tribes, their friends about things. This is a perennial topic that people love. So if you're looking for a topic, the secrets of success, everyone's searching for the secrets of success. I chose a different example here. This is actually an example from LinkedIn.com, because LinkedIn.com doesn't always get that many shares. But you can see this one on how successful people stay calm. Over 3 million views, 35,000 likes, and 120,000 shares across social media. So telling people the secrets of success, I think putting the word success into your headlines helps. Travis Bradley, who wrote this, he's written lots of posts, why successful people do this, why successful people do that, and he always tries to keep the word successful in his post titles. So secrets of success definitely helps people share it. This is another example of somebody said, oh, I blogged my way to a dream job. So again, it's secrets of success, really. Another topic which is, I think, permanently popular is anything around health, diet, and fitness tips. People seem to like to share this stuff. I'm not sure it's always good, but I took an example. These are 3 of the most shared posts on BuzzFeed this year. These are 3 of the top 5. You can see that 3 of their top 5 are all about health, diet, and fitness. So eating healthier, lowering your carbs, exercises. And these seem to always be popular with people. So this is the BuzzFeed one, 12 exercises you need to get in shape. So it's a sort of list post. It's sort of a how-to post. It's got nice images that you can pin directly onto Pinterest. And what's interesting is BuzzFeed are very good. They've produced images in a nice portrait format designed for pinning to Pinterest. And actually, these images were pinned over 500,000 times to Pinterest. And I think it's because they didn't do one big infographic. They did a series of individual images, all designed so they look nice when you pin them to a Pinterest page. And as you know, the portrait images on Pinterest work much better. So I think they were clever in a number of respects. The other topic, along with health and fitness, is anything about the secrets of love and dating. People seem to love to share this stuff. So I took an example here of the New York Times top articles, and you can see the second most shared post is about falling in love. Interestingly, none of the 4 most shared are really news, depending on how you define news, like the 52 places to go, which was the 4th most shared. So this was the post. Basically, it just says that you can fall in love with anyone if you ask them these 36 questions. And so people are obviously keen to try it, see whether it worked or didn't work. The author said it works really well. So it got shared quite widely. So the secrets of love, dating, people like. Again, another similar example. This was a post on how we date these days, US-based, but 1.6 million shares, so it's huge. Last 2 in terms of just types, and then I'll bring it all together. Secrets to a long life. I think it was John Paul Sartre who said, we're anxious because we know we're going to die, and we'd all like to live a little bit longer. So it's a bit like secrets of career success. Any sort of secrets to a long life, people seem to be interested in and share it. This was quite amusing. It's a woman who is 109. She lives in Scotland, and she says the secret to a long life is avoiding men. That she's never really had much to do with men, and that's been the secret of her long life. But she also says she eats a bowl of porridge or a bowl of oatmeal every morning, and that's also part of her secret. So her view is secret to a long life is avoiding men, and people generally share content quite well if it's anything about secrets to living longer. However, she may not have it entirely right, because my final category is about if you share a heartwarming story, people like to share that. So here's a heartwarming story about a couple, and actually they've been married 82 years. So maybe the secret to a long life isn't avoiding men, because this woman obviously survived to 105 being married. But interestingly, these 2 people said their other secret was eating a bowl of oatmeal every morning. So maybe there's something about oatmeal every morning. But people like heartwarming stories and will share them. So okay, so that's my views on some of the most shared content this year and why I think they got shared. The real question is, what can we learn and what can we put into practice? And so we need to remember they're outliers. But the important thing is it's not always about the content itself. It's about ignition and amplification. Why did they go viral? Did some people start sharing it first, which forced it to go viral? Did it jump on a theme, which helped ignite the content? And I was trying to look at, are there common elements that make these posts shareable? And what I began to notice was that a number of these posts actually combined different elements. You remember my picture list post example? It combined a list post with beautiful pictures, with curation. Often quizzes will do that. There might be quizzes about zombies, so they take a popular topic and a popular quiz format, for example. So I started to notice that they were combining different elements. So what I did was I had a further look at this, and I came up with what I thought were 4 elements which make content more shareable. And it'd be good to get your views on this. So the first element is an emotional element. The content, if it's going to get shared, has to have some emotional impact with the reader. And that could be a whole range of things. It could just be it's really funny, it's amusing, or it's surprising, or it's beautiful, or actually it's shocking. But there needs to be some emotional element to your content. So if you're writing a post, is there an emotional element that's going to hook people in? And could you work towards one of these emotional elements? So you could do some surprising things about your topic or some warning things about your topic, etc. But I think it needs an emotional element. Then I think there's what I would call a content element. People like to share images, they like to share facts, they like to share charts, they like to share quotes, and the same is true of video. So there's certain types of content, within your content that people like to share. So does your content have those elements? So, have you got images in your content? Have you got facts? Have you got charts or quotes? What are the type of content people like to share? Then there's a topic element. So to me, this is often trending topics. I think for us in business-to-business industries, we want to look at what's trending in a particular topic. So, it might be in SEO, maybe there's something trending about some change to Google algorithm, or maybe there's some change to what Twitter's doing, or whatever it happens to be. Is there something trending that you can jump on? Because if it's trending, it really helps you because your audience are already interested in the topic. And so if you can produce something nice, you can jump onto the trend. I think there are some topics which are just always popular. And so I've just pulled out a few of those. I think health and fitness, cats and dogs, secrets of a long life, secrets of love and success. I think there are some topics that people are always interested in. So I think you either find a trending topic or you write to one of the common ones. And I say even in business to business, the secrets of success work very well. And then the final content element, I think, is the format. So there's a lot of evidence that people like to share list posts more than any other content. But people also like to share quizzes, they like to share stories, for example. They also like to share new research findings and things like that. And they also like to share practical tips. So there's an element to the format which makes it more shareable. So what I was just then trying to think through is, look, if you're writing content today, so you're writing a blog post, do you have these 4 elements in your post? Is there an emotional element to it? What's the content element you're writing? Do you have elements there that people like to share? Are you on trend, or are you writing something which is permanently a popular topic? And what sort of content format are you using? Are you going to turn this into a list post? Could you do it as a quiz or a nice story, for example, or could you report on research? So when you're producing content, I'm not saying it's going to make you go viral, because nobody knows exactly why it goes viral. But I think if you combine these 4 elements within your content, or even just 2 or 3 of them, I think you've got a better chance of creating more shareable content. So these are my sort of questions. Do you have an emotional element? Do you have shareable content within it? What's resonating with your audience? What's trending? And you can use BuzzSumo trending to see that. And what sort of formats working? And also you can have a look using BuzzSumo to see what formats work well with my audience. Do they like videos or list posts or infographics? Find one which is commonly shared a lot and use that. And I think you can do this with headlines as well. So unfortunately, headlines really do matter. I think it's great what BuzzFeed do. They write 10, 20 headlines. They A/B test during a day, and they end up with popular headlines. Most of us don't have that luxury and that many people to test. but a headline will help whether people decide to read it or decide to share it. And I was thinking that you could even use the shareable elements, those 4 shareable elements, in a headline. So, for example, we could use an emotional word. Let's take the word surprising. We could use a trending topic like zombies. We could choose a content type like facts or quotes or images. We could use a format such as a quiz or a list post. So let's say we've got, these 4 elements. That naturally leads you to a more shareable title. So 10 surprising facts about zombies. Because what we've got in here is a list post. We know people like that. We know people like to be surprised. We know people like to share facts. We know people like to share content about zombies because it's trending at the moment. So you can not only produce content with those elements, but you can also try to find ways of incorporating them in your headline so that your headline gets across to your reader very clearly why your post is relevant for them to share. Now, you can't just build headlines to order every time, but I think you can think about whether you've got these 4 elements in your headline. So they were sort of my conclusions from going through and looking at the most sort of viral content this year. And I say I would just be cautious that viral content is exceptional content. But I do think there are things we can learn, and I think there are these elements which make content more or less shareable. And most of those ones that were really well shared had these elements to them. So again, I only looked at a few tens of thousands of posts, so I didn't go across all the posts, but these did seem to be fairly common elements. So with that, happy to open it up to discussion, really. So I'll stop sharing my screen and, yeah, happy to take any questions that people have.
Okay, guys, anyone? I don't know, Abbas, Amel, anyone? We can start.
Thank you, Steve, for your presentation. It was really great. I took a lot of notes. So I had a question, but you actually answered it. So anyway, I was surprised, but I was happy about it. So my question to you, so you talk about the 4 different elements that make a post go viral, and so I understand that. But my question is about the content itself.
Yeah.
Did you actually analyze if the content, like the structure of the content elements, actually help the viral, phenomena or whatever it is?
Yeah, no, I mean, in this case, we didn't analyze a number of elements, but we didn't analyze like the complexity of the language. We didn't really analyze how scannable it was, although typically more scannable content does well. I mean, you do want to break up content so it's easy to scan, because we're always pressed for time. We're always scanning down to see what's relevant for us all, I think. So, but we didn't, in this particular study, we didn't look at the actual structure of the content. We just looked at generally the formats, the type, the topic. So, but I think there is a general view that the more scannable your content, the more shared it is. And I think it's one of the reasons that list posts do particularly well, because a list post almost has the promise of being scannable. If it's 5 steps to do something or 7 tips or whatever it happens to be, it's got the promise of being scannable. So I think that almost proves it in a way, just the list post element. But we didn't look in detail at the text. It's a separate piece of research we could do.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Abbas, do you have your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, completely.
Okay. I guess Emil has a question, right?
No, I'm fine. That was the question.
Okay. Steve, I have a question.
Sure.
What if we are working in the boring industry, right? Like heavy machinery, agriculture. So provide us some tips for creating or crafting the content for these industries.
Yeah. I think even within any industry, there's something which is trending or of interest to the people in that industry. So I previously worked in learning, so learning, training and development, and it was a bit dull in a way, but if you search on BuzzSumo for trending and content about learning and training, there are normally topics that are of interest to that audience. So you can find content that resonates to your particular niche audience. So there'll be some controversy. I often look for controversies. So what do people disagree about? In agriculture, it might be about ways to do things or the right type of equipment or machinery. Are there controversies I can link into? I think the other thing you can do is you can still write more tongue-in-cheek, lighter content. So even when we were doing training content, we occasionally said, okay, so we need to talk about team working and team learning. It's a bit boring. So we just wrote a really fun quiz, which was, what's your Star Wars team style? So in terms of how you operate in a team, we just did a simple little quiz, and more people engaged in it just because it was about what's your style. And I saw somebody recently did one on learning styles about Big Bang Theory. So what's your theory? How do you do things? And so I think you can only do it occasionally, but occasionally you can do something which taps into a wider issue or a wider sort of trending topic. You can even do a quiz around, zombies, or why zombies would need certain types of equipment. I don't know what it would be, but I think you can definitely tap into trending content, and I think you can think about some of the wider issues. And occasionally it's good to do something which is lighter-hearted and slightly more tongue-in-cheek as well. But also, I find boring industries often people like real research and data. So if you can look at some of the latest research studies, people really need to know what's trending in their industries. So, why this particular vehicle in agriculture is not being used anymore, why this particular vehicle is being used a lot more, why this crop is growing, not growing, whatever it happens to be. I often find people like content about trends as well.
Because these industries usually are lacking in the research and stats. I'm recently working in a heavy machinery industry, and I hardly find some stats on these topics. So it's difficult to craft a unique and viral post for this industry, but I surely follow your tips.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is we just take a topic, whatever your topic is. Excuse me, it's you could just go to do a sort of search you can do in BuzzSumo, for example. Is just type in your topic. You're talking about e-learning. Type in e-learning trends, or e-learning tips, or e-learning research. Put those in a single search, and often those will throw up interesting stuff as well. But obviously, it's a very niche industry. It can be a bit harder, but certainly worth looking at that. Or the alternative is to do your own research. And I found that worked well in the past as well. You could do your own survey. So survey 100 of the companies in the area. It might just be a simple SurveyMonkey survey. And even if you only get 50 back, you can write up a sort of research report which might interest people. So if there's no research in the industry, and I think there probably would be, but if there's not, you could also do some of your own research. And that helps create a headline. 30% of people say X.
One more question.
Sure.
Do you think that roundup post is a good option?
Yeah, I think they can be useful. Everybody's busy, so I think people like roundup posts, but I think they have to be very short and fairly punchy, really. The danger also is that if people have already read some of the posts, they'll see, well, I've already read that because it was very popular. So I'm a bit mixed on them. I think they're a relatively cheap form of content because they're quite easy to do. But on the other hand, if you're busy and you need some content, then they're a good form of content to do. I'm a bit mixed on them, but I think some people certainly like them because it saves them time. They bring out the top 5 posts this week, and they seem to get shared quite well. I think to earn links to your site, though, if you're looking to earn links to your site, I think you need original content, your own authoritative content, for example. And the content that gets links is definitely original, it's authoritative, it tends to be evergreen. So you need to be looking to do some longer form of your own research content if you really want to acquire links to your site, because those sort of roundup posts are relatively short term. They're not necessarily original other than your curation of them. So I think you often need almost every month what I call a cornerstone piece of content. So if you see on BuzzSumo, the piece of content I wrote about this research is more of a cornerstone piece. It took me a while to research it, but it's an original piece of research. It's already acquiring quite a lot of links. In between times, I might write a simple post on, 5 great quotes this week or something, but that's a sort of slightly lighter content. I think you do need those cornerstone pieces of content at least every month or 2 months as part of your strategy.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. I got.
Anyone has a question? I do have a question from public, but I just have to kind of understand it first. Yeah. Do you always use sentence for people to make action read your article? How do you stimulate people to read your article? I guess when can you say stop in this article headline? I'm not going to provoke reading only mine article. Yeah, I was trying to understand, trying to make a sense. Does it make any sense for you, Steve?
I think that I think I caught part of it, which is, I think headlines are more important than we'd like them to be in a way. Some people decide whether they read your article based on the headline, so you do have to spend a lot of time thinking about the headline. Unfortunately, I'd like to say it's all about the content, the quality, but often you have to get people to read it first, and that's often the headline. So I think you have to promise value in the headline to get people to read it. And I think the other thing is I would test different headlines. If you've had a post up for a few days and that's not worked, I would test it. And one of the great ways, I think, to test is to try different headlines in tweets. So I think you could try 4 or 5 headlines and put out 4 or 5 different tweets over the next couple of days and see if one gets more reaction than the other, and then adjust a blog post title saying if you find one's getting more traction than the other, because it's just not easy to know what sort of headline's going to work with people. So I think the only way is to test it. I mean, BuzzFeed do it really well. They write 20 headlines, they test them, and then after a few days they narrow down on one title. Most of us can't do that, but you could test it in tweets, you can test it with friends and colleagues. What we do at BuzzSumo is we force everyone now, we have to come up with at least 5 different headlines. So we always have to write 5 headlines, and then my colleagues James and Henley say, yeah, that's not good, that's good, etc. But just the process of forcing me to write 5 headlines, it just helps us think about it, really.
Okay, I hope it's Alexander who asked a question. I'm not just reading it from our comments on our website. I hope it gives you an answer. Okay, guys, do we have more questions? I'm asking audience who's watching us outside of the room. I'm asking you guys, do you have any more questions? Well, Abbas was asking about boring industry, but I understand not everyone actually need to get viral. Viral is great. Just to put it on the wall and say, yeah, I had my post went viral, which I can do because my post went viral yesterday. We talked about with Steve about it, but it absolutely didn't help me in terms of business. And sometimes for business purposes, it doesn't have to be viral, isn't it?
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, different content fulfills different purposes. So I think you could write a quiz because you want to just get lots of awareness and people who understand your brand or just engage with you. But a quiz is never going to get somebody to convert to become a customer. So you might want a white paper or a research post or a case study of a customer. So as you move down the sales funnel, you'll want different types of content. But you're right, when you get down to the conversion level of content, like good case studies about how people have used your piece of agricultural equipment or whatever it happens to be, you don't need such big numbers there. And in any case, you don't need the viral numbers we're talking about here. I'm just looking at what can we learn from them to make our own content a little bit more shareable, really. So it's just looking at those big ones. But you're right, I mean, ultimately what matters is the number of customers you're converting. But you do need different types of content, and I think it's a mistake people make that they just churn out the same types of blog posts every week, where you've got to think, I have a plan for a month, which is, okay, during my content for the month, some of it's going to be conversion content, some of it's going to be awareness content, some of it's going to be educational content. I gradually move my people through a funnel, because people come to my website at different stages. So, somebody who's close to conversion, they need a very particular type of content. If it's somebody who's never heard of us, then a more light-hearted piece of content or a market news or a roundup post. A roundup post will be fine, but if you're trying to convert a customer, a roundup post isn't going to work. You really want to, for example, a really good case study from a customer about how they implemented something and the benefits they got. So, you're not looking at huge numbers when you get down to conversion content.
I have another question from audience. It's a kind of technical question. Steve, can we have slides from this presentation? Slides.
Yeah, sure.
So you'll give me a link, or you'll give me.
I'll just mail them to you. Yeah, I'll mail them to you, and then you can share.
Okay, guys. So I will post in our website as usual. So slides will be available. No problem here. Any question, Amel?
Yes, I do have one question actually. Okay, so my question is a little bit kind of a strategic question in a way where, if I understand you correctly, okay, so if we are in a boring industry or in any different industry that it's like too niched, okay, so would you say that we can use this strategy of creating a viral post using all these 4 different elements in a way to just be more visible and get like in a way to just for branding instead of conversion?
Yeah, I think you absolutely can. I think there is a need for looking at awareness content as well, so that people just know about you and they help with your tone of voice and things. So I think there really are. So I mean, a fun quiz, as I say, just take that example, but a fun quiz or a fun list post can just raise awareness and branding, helps your tone of voice as a brand, etc. You're not going to look to those people necessarily convert, but if they enjoy the experience of doing the fun quiz that you've set up, etc., that just helps your brand, I think. And so I think your content strategy has to have different types of content, but it should include, those sorts of maybe quizzes or maybe 10 facts you didn't know about X, or those sorts of lighter-hearted pieces. And I think you can use news and market updates, etc. And then as you move through the funnel towards conversions, you get to more serious content and more longer sort of form content, really.
Great, thank you very much for the answer.
Very little to say, nothing, no new news post. Well, if you don't take Donald Trump's as a news, yeah. So no news. I would think first would come into my mind if we're talking about viral. I would think some, I don't know, bomb. Okay, terror attack in Paris. Well, earthquake was there, was it? Yeah. So earthquake was a kind of news as well. Yeah, true. But very little. Very little. Why?
There are some. I mean, I didn't take some of the posts. I mean, obviously the stuff around Paris got lots of shares, for example. So there is a lot of content there, which is genuinely news, breaking news sort of content. So I think people are interested in news, and I think you can exploit that in a B2B industry. I tend to exploit it quite a lot. I have trending dashboards set up under my BuzzSumo, which I would recommend for specific topics like content marketing. And every morning I look at them, and if there's something that's starting to trend, I like to be the first person to share it. Because people like new stuff, they like new things, and so if you can be the person who's always sharing the new stuff, they think, God, that guy really knows. They got their finger on the pulse. So I like to often see what's trending, just to be the first to share it, because it helps my authority. People say, oh, I can rely on Steve. If there's something new, I can rely that Steve's probably looked at it or researched it. So I think people are always interested in news, but I deliberately didn't look at some of the terrorism news and things like that. So they do get big shares. I mean, and if you use our Facebook Analyzer tool, you'll see, just type in Paris and you'll see some of the really big shared posts around that.
Okay, guys, do we have more questions? I mean, I'm talking to guys in studio, if you can call it studio, webinar, or whatever. Yeah, and what about guys outside? I'm checking website, but so far no more questions. No more questions, guys. More questions? If there's no questions, okay. If somebody who is a bit, I don't know, shy or something, ask a question, can they ask questions later on?
Yeah, sure. People can ask questions to you via you or via me. I mean, I'm just at Steve Rayson at Twitter, or I'm just Steve at BuzzSumo.com on email. And I'll always try to answer, days permitting, but I'll always try and jump back and answer you. So if you've got any questions, do feel free to connect with me on Twitter or LinkedIn, or just mail me at steve@buzzsumo.com, and very happy to jump on a webinar or have a chat, or just try to exchange some mails.
Okay, Steve is open to a question. You can reach him over Twitter, over his email or website. Guys, in studio, if you don't have more questions, we have to say thank you, Steve. Was very interesting, and amusing, and I won't call this webinar awesome. I'll call it brilliant one. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. You guys, you can say it. You don't have to type. You can say it in studio. And okay. Thank you for everybody who's been here. Thank you, Steve, for this brilliant webinar. Thank you, guys. We're trying to get kind of new format. So all of you, you're welcome to next one or next after the next or any. Just let me know. Okay. And thank you everybody who were watching us, and obviously it's all on Hangouts, which is brilliant technology. I don't have to upload it. It will be uploaded automatically a few minutes as soon as I press stop button. Okay, Amel said she's just connected.
Shortly. I'll jump on after this.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much,
Great.
guys. Thank you, Steve. And Steven is going to go to Australia. Nice, nice weather. Okay, lucky somebody. Okay. Thank you, everybody,
Great.
and thank you, and goodbye.
Great.